Evelyn to Philip, December 3rd and December 4th, 1944. Dearest Phil, I had hoped to be able to write yesterday, but fate decreed differently. There is so much to tell you and so little time to write this evening that I hardly know where to begin. By all rights, this letter should have been my happiest to date, but again fate intervened, for this missive must convey to you the news of Betty Gutkin's demise. She died December 2nd, and the details are still a bit hazy. I'm sure you will be just as shocked as we all are. She had been pregnant and lost her baby in the 7th month. Evidently, she had a heart attack. It must have been too much for her this time. Her funeral was held in the Bronx today, and Mom, Ethel, and Mickey attended. Betty had been living in Connecticut, and they must have brought her body to New York. Ethel came to Adele's birthday party yesterday and had to break the news. Mo called her from New York and took Mom back to her house, and they took an early train this morning. I'm sorry I had to start off with such news, and I know you won't have too much heart for all the other frivolities I have to talk about. This past weekend was one of the most enjoyable I've had to date. On Saturday evening, everyone decided that they didn't want to venture out into the freezing cold that keeps persisting to attend the party held in Richie's honor. I made up my mind to go. I called Emma and wound up going to the party with Emma and Shirley Stein. We took a cab and split the fare between us. The party was one of the nicest ever held by the Liebermans. The entire house was decorated with red, white, and blue decorations. Richie's pictures were, page 2, plastered all over, and there were many bouquets of flowers. Gee, but it was good to see Richie after these many years. He looks fine, and the only change I could note was the fact that his hair is not as red as it used to be. He said that he was near Grizzly or something like that, England, and very far from you. He had quite a bit of interest to tell us, and I won't go into that here. He had a steady girlfriend and said to me, quote, "That girl waited 3 years for me," end quote. He didn't even know that we had a little girl and was quite surprised. The Liebermans were so excited that they didn't know what they were doing. May was in Florida at the time and flew in to be at the party. The Liebermans also celebrated their 36th anniversary and made the affair to cover both his homecoming and their anniversary. They all danced and sang Jewish melodies, and the food was delicious. Everyone you can think of was present. Most notable, however, was the presence of Billy and Dolly. I spent most of the evening talking to them. I'm enclosing Bill's address and want you to write to him as soon as you can. I gave him your address, too. He's a T5 and is attached to anti-aircraft. He was terribly nervous, and when I asked why, informed me that his outfit was being transferred to infantry and he was wondering what his chances were. He has an office job at the present time. He's able to come in most every weekend from New York. Bill and Dolly drove me home at about 12:30. Sunday I was busy as a bee, cleaning, shopping, readying the table, getting Adele all prettied up, and many other things. I set the table in the dining room with red and blue napkins, paper plates. I had the birthday cake in the center of the table and had Dixie cups for the kids, pretzels, potato chips, butter cookies, Fig Newtons, chocolates, chocolate straws, caramel lollipops, soda water. Adele was very bewildered by all the goings-on and very quiet until she really got started. Then she, page 3, socked this one and banged that one. Those present were Mrs. Feldman, Sarah, Betty, Pete, Abe, Evelyn, Abe's girl, Frida, Betty's girlfriend, Faye with Mark, and Ann with Richie. Relatives consisted of Ethel, Mickey, Paul, Goldie, and Diana. Ruth was here with a girlfriend of my brother Eddie's. It was quite a nice affair. Petey made Adele sit on the steps in the living room and posed for him. We turned on all the lights in the living room and he made 2 snaps of her, which I'm hoping will turn out. She looked so darn cute you would have eaten her up. Adele wore her little silk blue and pink pleated dress, blue socks, and a blue bow in her hair. Gee, I forgot to mention Nana. She was right beside Adele all the time. We sat the kids around the table and joined them. Petey asked if he could play the daddy and lit the candles on the cake. We all helped Adele blow out the 3 candles. After we had partaken of the refreshments, Mrs. Feldman became impatient and asked me to open up the stack of gifts that had piled up before I knew what had happened. The gifts were as follows. From Ann and Richie, 2 pairs of white flannel pajamas with little red and blue figures all over them. From Faye and Mark, a lovely wool plaid red and jungle green pleated skirt. From Ethel and Mickey, a fuchsia-colored wool skirt and bolero jacket, which is trimmed with red and green Tyrolean. The skirt is also pleated. From Betty and Nana, a lovely dress that consists of a white blouse with smocked yoke. There were buttons all about the bottom of the blouse, to which is buttoned a pretty plaid cotton flared skirt. Petey and Ara gifted our darling, that's what they call her, with the loveliest dress, page 4 of all. It has a blue flared skirt with suspender effect, blue straps over a white blouse on top. The neckline in the front is trimmed with blue lace effect and has a drawstring to pull it snug to the neck. Each and every gift was absolutely lovely. We broke up early and I asked some girls over for a gin rummy game in the evening. I had asked them early in the morning before Ethel came and couldn't very well back out. Mom and Ethel left early and Mick stayed for dinner. After dinner I put Adele to bed and she was very cranky. I took her up at 6:45 and she didn't get to sleep till way after 9. Just as she fell off, the bell rang and in walked the girls. You know Elsie and Faye, but you don't know Heloise and Gladys. I met the latter 2 through Faye. We taught Goldie the game and played a 6-handed game. I got off to a marvelous start, as usual, and wound up 20 cents losers. I got to bed by 12. This morning I stopped at the bank before going to work and bought a $50 bond with my check that had arrived Saturday along with the check from Sharp and Dome. I also deposited $5 to our account. I thought we would have $1,200 in bonds by virtue of this recent purchase, but we only have $1,175. Today was another big day. When I got into work, Jessie informed me that she was leaving Friday and that a new girl will take over. I'll probably have to help this new girl a bit. Secondly, the strollers I had been waiting for all these months finally arrived and I took one home with me. I don't know the exact price as yet since Mr. Bell left before the price was set and I didn't want to wait to find out. It will probably be around $14. It's a very nice carriage for the money. We really needed the stroller badly, for the walker was just about shot. When I got home this evening, I found your letter of November 7th waiting for me. I had already received mail dated November 13th and had hoped there would be more. Page 5, recent mail. There was nothing in your letter of the 7th that excites any comment on my part. However, there was something else that really excited some comment from me. A registered letter from Jack N. that I'm enclosing for you, which had a $10 bill in it for Adele. I had written to Jack N. on Adele's birthday, and I needn't tell you just how surprised I was. I shall use the money to pay for the stroller. I hope to visit Jack in New York if he cannot come here, but naturally I shall not make any definite plans. His birthday is January 25th, and it may be that he won't be in any condition for visitors for some time. After all, this is going to be a delicate operation. I wonder what his chances are. And so I bring you up to date on my latest doings, and since I want to send a thank you note off to Jack now, I shall close now, baby. Not, however, till I've kissed you soundly and told you just once more that I adore you so ever so much. As we blew out the candle, I couldn't help saying how I wish Phil were here. I wish that so very much at this moment. Good night, baby. I love you. Your Ev. Philip to Evelyn, 4 December 1944. My darling, today was a beautiful sunny day, but the sun gave off little warmth and there was a cold, boisterous wind blowing. However, there was hardly a cloud in the sky, and that in itself is so rare an occurrence over here in England that it is worthy of mention. I worked steadily most of the day on this month's installment of the company history. Of course, as is usual, I was interrupted numerous times by other details which had to be attended. But I managed to get it done by the end of the day, so I'm well satisfied. After work, I put on my overcoat and gloves and hiked down to the theater, where I saw Spencer Tracy in The Seventh Cross. It was an absorbing melodrama about Nazi Germany in 1936, and I thought it a very interesting sort of film. After the show, I stopped at the snack bar for a bite to eat. The Red Cross had brought in a couple of entertainers from London who sang duets a la Eddie MacDonald. I listened to them till they ended their performance, which was fairly entertaining, and headed back here to the orderly room to write this. It is almost 10 o'clock now, so if I end this rather abruptly, you'll understand why. I have a flock of your emails to answer tonight. I have arranged them consecutively according to dates, and I'm just about ready to start. Before I do, though, I want to tell you about the enclosed hanky. Dick Stahl gave it to me some days ago to mail to you, but up till now I've forgotten to remember it. He bought it together with a lot of other stuff when he was on furlough in Scotland recently. I thought it might go well with your gray lumberjack dress, if it has a pocket. Anyway, I hope you like it, sweet. Don't forget to thank Dick for it when you write, as it was his idea that I send it along to you. Now to your emails. The first one is dated 13 November. You said you were unusually happy because you received 3 of my letters that day. The rest of the letter calls for no comment. Next, the one dated 14 November. This one told me about the good news of Eddie's arrival in Charleston. I had been puzzling about his whereabouts all this time, and it certainly was a relief to know that he finally did wind up in the States. I can't understand, though, why he couldn't go straight home from Charleston. I'm sure he's okay. Now that you mention it, I do remember Gene Foreman. I remember you telling me about him. As you know, I answered his letter shortly after I received it, but I haven't heard from him since, and I'm certainly not going to write again until he does answer me. Glad to learn that the vitamin page 2 tablets are helping you, Chippy. Yes, do weigh yourself and tell me how fat you are getting. I can just picture that. And now I'm afraid I must sign off, Ev, darling. You know I love you. A kiss from my pumpkin. Love to all. On second thought, I won't hold this for tomorrow. I'd rather, and I know you'd rather, that you got this a day earlier. Good night, my lovely. I am, as ever, your Phil.